What is going on, everybody? Welcome in Fantasy Alarm's live stream. It's time to keep meeting the family, baby. That's right. If you're just joining us, if you're new to us here right now, we broadcast live on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube. You can find it on the old Twitter machine if you want. You can also find it on the broadcast fantasyalarm.com. We've been doing our Meet the Family, just giving you an inside look into everybody who's on staff. And well, lo and behold, look who it is today. It's not only one of our newer members of Fantasy Alarm's content team, but also one of our oldest Fantasy Alarm content teams. And that's not a knock on your age, Ryan, but tell us the story here.
Oh, man, it's been a long road. Thanks for having me in, Howard. But yeah, man, I was on the ground floor of the Fantasy Alarm all those years ago. Me and some other guy, I don't really remember his name, but kind of came in from the start.
You can say it's okay to say Jeff Mans. We're all on good terms with Jeffrey.
He's not watching.
He's not watching.
Good. It was just me and him. We did some content. We did some podcasts. We were the first hosts of the Fantasy Alarm show on Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio. Took some time off. Couldn't be happier to be back with all you guys. The site is incredible compared to what it was way back when, and everybody you got is really good people.
I do love this team. I'm not gonna lie. I think it's a fantastic group of guys and a lot of attention. But all right, well, talk to me here, because actually you didn't start off on Sirius XM Radio. You guys actually started off on Blog Talk Radio. I think I think I started maybe after the 2012 conference that was in San Francisco. You're a San Francisco guy. When was that FSTA conference where I met you for the first time?
You know, it's really funny. I listen to sports radio and I listen to everything, and everybody's always able to say, well, 2010, this happened. I'm like, I don't have really recollection. I know events. I can never remember what year anything happened. So I honestly have no idea what year that was when we met in San Francisco. But yeah, before that, we did Blog Talk Radio. We actually, Jeff and I both started with another site. I started by myself all the way back to the beginning. And him and I got put on a podcast together. We had never met before, and just started that. Yeah, we did Tuesday night, I think, at 9:30, and then after a while, we did another one Friday night at midnight. Called it the Midnight Oil, so you can see what kind of social life we had, that we were doing a podcast the Friday night at midnight. But yeah, it grew from there until
honestly, what's wrong with that?
Until I don't know how. I don't even know how he got hooked up with Fantasy Alarm. He booked all that. I just was writing articles and doing podcasts. To be honest, I have no idea how it came to fruition.
Oh, okay. Well, thanks for that kind of detail and those insights. He's Ryan Hallam, and we're saying goodnight then.
I'm here all week.
Are you, though? That's the question.
I guess. I hope so. I guess it's up to you.
All right. So, yeah, I can't. It was either 2010 or 2012 when I met you. I feel like the Giants won the World Series in that year. Or maybe, listen, you know what? They won it in 10, 12, and 14. So maybe it could have been in the middle there and an off year as well. I just remember that the event was there. I was your guys' bartender.
Yeah.
And see, the reason that I love this story so much is because you were I don't remember how we talked about or how we got into doing radio, but you knew I had just done a show with a guy named Alan Fish up in the Albany area.
Oh, yes.
Right. And you texted Alan during that, being like, hey, you had a guy named Howard Bender on your show, and texted him right then and there. I remember that story because Alan didn't have the greatest of things to say about me.
And 10 years later, you're still bitter about it.
Right? Well, he said I was dry. Dry? Am I dry?
You're a lot of things, Howard, but I don't know about dry. Yeah, I did a few guest spots on that. That was my local ESPN radio affiliate out of Albany. I had done some guest spots there. That's how I met Alan. Well, never met him, but, hooked up with him there. So, yes, he did call you dry. And I know, it's good. Things like that happen, and that's motivation. Look, you've never forgotten it.
Right. And now I'm just some foul-mouthed, middle-aged man still pissed off about something that went down a decade ago. So talk to me. Was sports your whole direction? Like when you were, first off, where'd you grow up?
I live in upstate New York, about 2 hours north of the city. I grew up not far from here, to be honest. I've always lived within about an hour radius of where I am now, so I haven't exactly been a person who's moved around an awful lot.
You're a townie? Is that what you say? You're a townie?
I guess I am.
All right, so you grew up in the area. Was sports what you had always wanted to do, and you went off to, where'd you go to college?
University of Albany.
Okay.
I had a business degree. I've never really done anything with it. Now my normal career is kind of a disaster of one mostly sales job after another. The funny thing is, like, when I was a little kid, this will be something at least a little funny for you. When I was a little kid, I was the most shy person on the face of the planet. Like, I wouldn't talk to anybody. My dad loves to tell the story. I was like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old. He took me to the bank, and the bank teller gave me a lollipop. And he's like, say thank you. And I was like, and he's like, say thank you. And I was like, say thank you or give it back. And I gave it back to her. I wouldn't say thank you to keep the lollipop. So that's like how terribly shy I was. I have no idea how I've turned out now to where I'll pretty much talk to anyone or do anything on a video for a laugh. Or I don't know how that transition happened, but I'm happy it did because that was no fun.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Was it just that you were shy, or was there just something about this bank teller that kind of threw you off a little bit? Maybe you thought she was just beneath you,
she
right?
Was very nice to me. She was very nice to me. It was my father who was being the jerk about it, make me say something for a lollipop. What do I have to do? What do I have to perform for you? What am I, a monkey? Just give me the damn lollipop. So yeah.
Where are the cymbals?
Yes, that's exactly. Maybe if I did that, I would have got to keep the lollipop. I don't know, but yeah, things have changed.
Let me tell you something. That's what bartending is all about, by the way. Bartending is the monkey clapping the cymbals. It is the dancing bear at the zoo. It is like that whole, like, yeah, I got to perform.
I always feel bad for bartenders, like, because you have to talk to people. And, probably especially when people by themselves. And if you're by yourself, that's kind of a little bit of sad drinking by yourself at the bar. So you've probably heard terrible, terrible things that you've had to just endure and listen at the hope of a couple $1 tip, huh?
Yeah. The funny thing is that actually, I mean, bartending, and just to throw that out there, the interesting part about bartending is when you always have all the new customers. Doesn't matter if it's somebody just sad sack drinking by themselves or whatever. It's the newness. It's the fresh, new customer that you get to deal with, because it's the regulars who get who get really old, and you start hearing the same stories over and over again, and it's the same bitching, and you're like, well, listen, dude, if you're really that unhappy with this job, why don't you quit? Like that kind of a thing, where you just hear people complain over the same thing over and over and over again, and oh, God help me with when you get the old timers. The old timers who don't think that they should pay for any of their drinks because they're regaling you with the most amazing stories that you've only heard 744 times.
I mean, you're supposed to give the third one away, right? If they buy two, you give the third one. Isn't that kind of how it works?
Oh, no. It's technically supposed to be the fourth drink, but those who ask never get. It's always been my policy. Sorry, not going to happen. And when it's like the FSGA event with you guys there, I was like, yeah, let me double mark this tab here. Hallam just ordered a beer. Well, I'm going to put him down for 4.
That's all right. Fantasy Alarm was paying for it. We were good. You obviously made an impression on us because, I know we got in contact with you shortly after that. So you done good.
Stop it. And now that was... I walked out of that conference with like a stack of business cards, a couple extra streaming jobs on that, stringer jobs. So it was good. All right. So you're growing up, super shy kid. You go to the University of Albany.
Yep.
Was sports, I mean, it's always been the interest of you. Like, how did you make that pivot? Like, this job, this real world sucks. Let me start with the fantasy sports.
I would play home leagues. Obviously, we all started out that way and do fairly well with them, to the point where some family would start asking for some advice. And I had a cousin who lived in Boston at the time. He's like, you should start a blog. And I was like, what's a blog? Like, I had no idea what it even was. I'm as technological as a doorknob. So I looked it up, and thankfully WordPress is very easy to get started on. So I just started my own thing. Fighting Chance Fantasy Sports is still the name of it. It was a one-man show. I wrote an article every night. Baseball season, I called it Beyond the Box Score. I looked at every night. I went through the box scores and just kind of came up with stuff that I thought, as a casual player, that I would find interesting. So I didn't write about Albert Pujols or Ryan Howard or those kind of guys back then, because everybody knows who they are. You're not going to make a move on them. So I try to get more of the fringe guys or the lower level guys that I thought maybe would be interesting, and I did it every night. Every night for 4 years, I did that for baseball season. So I grew to love Mondays and Thursdays with the shorter slates. So it wasn't 15 games a night. But it's just that started. I got some help from some people in the industry. Steve Gardner, I hooked up with him at the USA Today when his blog was kind of starting for them. So I did some work with him. I got in some newspapers through Steve. I got in a couple magazines. Met some more people, and slowly just started to make a little name for myself. Back then it was different. And I heard you guys talking with Adam last week. It was so different back then. It was like roto experts and like the big guys. So you didn't have a whole lot of competition. You wrote, and another thing I gave out my email address, and I was like, I'll answer you within 18 hours. I promise I'll answer you within 18 hours. Right. And I think that really helped because especially even now, you see on Twitter all the time, people tagging like Matthew Berry and Brad Evans, like people trying to get their questions answered. They don't answer the questions. So it was like a time where something like that really made an impact of people getting an answer. And I did. I stuck to that very well, much to the chagrin of my ex-wife at the time. But that's kind of how I got started. It's a grind. It's really a grind. And I think that's a thing that's kind of lost these days.
Actually, is that your volume? Why do I hear an echo?
I haven't touched anything.
Oh, maybe that was Matt Sells? I feel like I'm getting an echo here. And now it's gone. So there it goes. Okay. So let me ask you this one here, because, you know what? To the chagrin of your ex-wife, and this is something that, I know, right? It sounds funny of like, to the chagrin of my ex-wife, but the bottom line is that you need that support system if you're going to make this move. I did the same thing. I started a blog. I was on Blogspot originally, and writing every single night because that's what you needed to do. You needed to get your name out there. You needed to make that happen. And I mean, listen, that kind of dedication, that's the kind of dedication I want to see nowadays that we don't get more, very often. And I think that's tough. So, I mean, really, to dive in on a personal level here, and we're going to put you on that shrink's couch here, Ryan. I mean, talk to me here. You and your how much was like you're chasing the dream, put that kind of a strain on your family life?
At that time, huge. It was a huge problem. I don't think she ever quite grasped the concept of what was happening. Maybe never thought it would be. And then when we got the radio show, it was pretty much the worst timing ever. So the weekend, when we first started, it was Saturday and Sunday from 5 to 8. So right in the weekend, dinner time, kid bedtime. So it was like the worst possible time. The first show ever was the day of my daughter's birthday. So we had a birthday party for her, and then I had to leave it early to go downstairs to do my show. My grandfather passed away like the next week, so I had to go do his wake and then go do a show. And then like her birthday was like 2 weeks later. So it was like the worst possible string of times for this radio show to happen. So at the time where this was the coolest thing could have ever possibly happened to my life. It was a huge problem, but that's life. That's what happens sometimes. And it was far from our only problem, obviously, given the situation. But
given who you are, I mean, come on.
It was a pretty major one, though. Yeah, like we went to therapy once, and I explained the whole thing, and the therapist was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool. You should kind of, telling her she should get behind this." And then we never went back to that person. So I don't know if it was just didn't get the answer she was looking for, so we stopped going. I don't know. But things are very.
Why is that the way? Why can somebody please tell me why that's the way with therapy? Like if you're trying to, like my wife and I have never done the couples therapy, but I've got tons of friends who have done it. Tons of friends. And I always get that same story is that all of a sudden it's like, the therapist seems to agree more with one than the other, and the other one's like, forget it, done. Yeah. Like rather than like recognize that, hey, maybe I'm the problem, and the therapist is pointing this out. No, got to change therapists here. I don't understand that at all.
I'm not going to say that I didn't have any hand in it either. I'm sure, it's just I was as much of a jerk as this didn't work out. We still have a pretty good relationship. Obviously, we have 2 children. So, we're still in constant contact, and we don't fight or anything anymore. We actually get along fairly well. So it's life happens, man. Things happen for a reason. I'm in a totally different situation now. I'm obviously remarried very, very happily. She is 1,000% behind me for everything that I do. God knows where she has the dogs right now because they've been barking all afternoon. So she took them out of here. So we didn't have any noise for this. So all the nonsense I do now, things are very different. So, hit me in the face with a pie, the situation is totally different. So life's a journey, man. Sometimes it's very rarely just a straight and paved road. So I am who I am today for everything I've been through.
Do you think maybe your marriage would have been better if the FF pie bet was around back then? I kind of feel like it's a cathartic feeling for a person to be able to slap somebody in the face with a pie.
The funny thing is when it first happened, I remember I went through a bunch of the videos on Twitter and I took a screenshot at the second that the pie hit. And then I cropped out the people's faces that were hitting them with the pie. It was pure elation. You've never seen people so happy in your life as the second that they hit their loved one in the face with the pie. That to me was the best part. Well, the charity, of course, was the best part. But the other best part was really just how happy it made everyone to just smash somebody in the face with the pie. I sadly didn't get the opportunity, but I sure did take a bunch.
Right? Yeah, same thing for me. I didn't get to hit anybody in the face with a pie. My wife lost. What week was it? It was the week that Tyreek Hill went out with that injury.
Oh, yes.
And I turned around and I was like, well, I'm just gonna, anybody who had Tyreek Hill doesn't have to take a pie, and I'm just gonna donate the money to charity myself. And man, that was stupid because that was like this close to being able to just wallop my wife with one right in the kisser.
That would have been good. I remember that week because I had somebody, I can't remember who I picked that week, but they had like one catch for 9 yards. And I was like, I'm just going to take it. And he went down. I remember tracking for the rest of the game, like, get him in the locker room. Get him in the locker room. Don't come out. I just need him to be hurt just for today. I don't want any bad injury, of course. I'm not risking, asking for his leg to fall off. But I need him to just not play tonight because it was a Mexico City game, I believe.
It was the Mexico City game. It was. How many pies did you take? Did you count?
No, but I remember the last one was over Christmas, and we were all at my parents' house, my brother and his kids and everything were at Christmas. So I went and bought some whipped cream before, and I grabbed some pie crusts, and then I just did paper plates. Like I did the whole thing, and I just let the whole family, anybody who wanted to, smash me. My aunt and uncle, both my nieces, my mom, my brother. So it took like 7 that day, but I think it was like 5 or 6. I was terrible at it. And the worst part was I was writing a wide receiver article every week for Fantasy Alarm. I can't pick one guy to beat any of your people. So I'm like, I'm not sure people are going to read my columns anymore if I can't guess one receiver to beat any of yours. So I wasn't too happy. I wasn't too sad when you guys didn't do it for the playoffs. I was ready for it to be done.
At PD Stitz is over in he's on the page right now. He's like Emmanuel Sanders, Ryan, because I had him too.
Yes,
that was your guy. I remember that. I remember when it was like his second or third game with the Niners. Was that what it was when he got hurt? Oh, yeah. Sanders. How do you like him on the Saints?
I'm fine with that. He came over and he didn't do a whole hell of a lot. I kind of think he's at the far side of his career. He had a couple bad injuries. I really wasn't upset that he left the 49ers. He could have gone to somewhere besides the Saints. They already have enough weapons, but I don't know that I see him having a humongous impact next year.
What about your team? What about your Niners? Like I was just going over NFL futures with Jim Bowden, which we will talk about on the Fantasy Alarm show. But we were kind of going over them. I mean, the 49ers seem to be the favorite of the NFC right now to not only win the division, to win the conference and the Super Bowl. Nobody's got better odds in the NFC than the Niners do.
Yeah, it scares me a little bit. I don't like quite being that much of a front runner, but I don't see any reason why they can't. I know they traded DeForest Buckner away, but I'm pretty sure they're going to take a young, dynamic wide receiver with that 13th pick that they picked up. The defense is still nasty. Bosa and D Ford and all those other guys, Eric Armstead. Secondary could use a little bit of help, but the defense is great. I have all the faith in the world in Garoppolo. All these stupid Brady rumors to the 49ers. Like a couple of months ago drove me nuts. Like we were going to give up on a 28-year-old for a 43-year-old old man. I think they got as good a shot as any. I'm honestly a lot more worried about Arizona this year, especially with Hopkins now. So we'll see. It's going to be a dogfight. The NFC is deep. I think we got a good shot to go back to the Super Bowl, though.
Who's your ideal first-round pick then for the 13th pick? I mean, I guess Jerry Jeudy. You've got Jeudy. You've got Ruggs. You've got CeeDee Lamb. Who do you want?
Judy's the guy I want. I'm seeing a lot of Lamb when I'm reading things and listening to things. Seems like I think they feel Judy's going to go before 13, so Lamb is going to be who we're going to end up with.
And that does, yeah. I mean, listen, I wouldn't be against CeeDee Lamb. I think there's some who could make a case for Lamb over Jeudy actually this year.
Yeah, no, I'm good with either one. As we get one or the other, they could go another direction, but I really doubt it. If they do, it can never hurt to get some more offensive line, but I'd love to see them pull a receiver out of there.
For those of you guys who don't know, Ryan Hallam is the biggest 49ers homer you've ever seen in your life. He lives in his jersey during the football season. Where's your wrestling mask? Did you bring this to this secluded island of yours? Where is it?
It's in the other room on my secluded island if you really want me to grab it real fast. You can talk to Matt Sells for about 30 seconds and I can go get it.
Right, I'll just vamp for a little while just to get him to say, no, I'm just kidding. All right, and he's gone. Look at that. Just crawling through there he goes, and he's gone through the universe, through space and time to go and pick up this mask. It's amazing how that beach scene can just kind of fold, right, and just kind of turn away. But listen, if you haven't seen Ryan in this mask, it's a little bit of a treat for you. Clearly purchased in Mexico, I think. Oh,
I did not bring it to the deserted island after all. Darn it!
Wow, dude.
I know. I did purchase it.
Wow. I'm voting you off right now. That's it.
That was correct, though. I did purchase it in Mexico.
That's it. Oh, it's all over. Here it comes. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I wish I had prepped this beforehand, but I'm just going to do this right now and say that the first person voted off of the Fantasy Alarm Island is Ryan.
Bringing the torch.
Bring me your torch. Snuff it on out. Why don't you spoil a little bit more Survivor for everybody, dude? How about that? Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the fact that Ryan Hallam here, who runs a fantasy Survivor contest. Now, you guys have seen, obviously, on fantasyalarm.com, the Survivor playbook, which was great. Thanks. I didn't use it last night, and my stupid guy Yule. Oh, am I supposed to say
that? Here we
go. Spoiler! If you're DVRing,
I didn't spoil the end. We just spoiled some dopey part in the beginning.
Beginning? Well, you did the same thing that Malin did the week before. I don't understand this. Let me ask you a question. Where do you live, Ryan? Where do you live? What time zone are you in?
Eastern time zone. Eastern
time zone. So what time is it right now? Right as we're doing this live stream.
3:32.
Okay. You know what? It's 12:32 here. While we're sitting here talking simultaneously at 12:32 and 3:32, TV doesn't work the same, my friend. So Survivor, which airs at 8, is not on at 5.
The funny thing is, I usually, because I do groups of 5, as you know, since you're involved. So we snake draft the 20 survivors, so each person gets 4. So what I usually do is I group people by time zone, not only for the drafting purposes, so everyone's kind of on the same time, but also because people like to talk in these DM groups that I do through about what happened. So what I normally do is group them by time zone, but there were so many people this year. Like I usually have like 40, 45, like almost 100 people were in. I'm not sure if like my following is a little bit bigger on Twitter or if it's because it's the all winter season that more people got involved in. I don't know what it is, but there were so many people this time and I didn't ask as people were signing up. So I did not group people by time zone. I forgot you were even in that one because there are so many to go through, and we spoiled something that happened in the first 5 minutes. That's not really all that consequential to the game anyway. But you were really
consequential. About that. Everything matters. Oh, I was pissed, man. I'm like sitting there, like
I know. I got the messages. The message was loud and clear. You were not happy.
It's literally the one show that I genuinely look forward to. And my wife and I, we've been watching Survivor. I think we missed like the first season or two, maybe the first 2 seasons of Survivor. Back when Survivor was actually like a legit survival game and not the cushy stuff that it is right now. But nevertheless, it's the one thing I look forward to. And I was just, I was like, it couldn't possibly happen 2 weeks in a row. Could it? Could it?
The funny thing is, I don't know if you watch the show The Goldbergs, which is also on Wednesday at 8 o'clock. It's a show that we like. It's really funny if you're not watching it. But that has to wait until after Survivor. Like we watch Survivor and then, DVR The Goldbergs so we can watch it after 1000% because I know if I watch The Goldbergs first and then Survivor, before Survivor's over, I'm going to find out what happened between Twitter or someone texting me. So I have made a point that Survivor has to be watched live because of the internet. So I understand your frustration, but it was a little strong for actually what happened.
Well, if you don't react strong, then people do it again. I mean, listen, it doesn't matter. I usually stay off. I put myself in like a little Wednesday moratorium for social media because of people spoiling it. So I never usually do it. I don't even know why. I was like, who's DMing me now? I see this on my phone, and it was. I
can't get you to answer me when I need something important about the site, but in Survivor, you open that DM.
What are you talking about? Oh, that's almost hurtful. That's almost hurtful. He's telling lies.
That is true. That was made up. He's very receptive.
All right, let me jump through some Periscope here because we got actually a couple of questions. And actually, Jen Piacenti wants you to tell the story of how you and she are distantly related.
That is true. That is true. Do you know?
Are you really? Are you guys related?
Her mother's maiden name is Hallam. I don't know that we are actually distantly related, but maybe. It sounded good. When I found that out, we've gone with it ever since. Oh. And her mom actually sent me, well, obviously through Jen, but yeah, sent me a little video telling me about it. So that was pretty cool.
What kind of a name is Hallam?
Scottish.
Scottish. If it's not Scottish, it's crap.
Yes.
I gotcha.
And I do not golf like I come from the folks who invented golf, but I do enjoy the game.
Yeah, I know.
No? That was a lot of fun.
My problem is like I'll play for fun.
Yeah.
I don't, I guess
you're not on the PGA Tour?
I'm not super competitive. If I'm like, if like a buddy of mine's like, hey, we should go out and go golfing, I'm like, okay, cool. Let's go out and go golfing. It's getting out. It's, hitting the ball a little bit. But to me, I'm not like crazed that I got to keep scoring. I'm going up against them. And every time I've like gone out and played with somebody, somebody's just so ultra competitive. And I'm just like, you know what? No, I'm gonna kick my ball out of the rough like that. I'm gonna make it a cleaner shot.
I can see that. I can see that being a problem.
Yes, and it was. At Fantasy Judgment, Michael Stein. Another guy, Michael Stein. I think Michael Stein was writing at Fantasy Alarm before I was.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, we had him all the way back. The first conference we went to was like some super draft thing in Las Vegas. He went to that with us. We sat there by the door with like some of those promotion girls, and still one of them had a Brady jersey and basically underpants on, and the other one I can't remember what she had. It was like another football jersey, but it was like the smallest amount of clothing possible. So Jeff, Mike, and I thoroughly enjoyed those couple days.
Okay, all right. Well, yeah, I remember he was there, and I believe Ivar was there also.
Yeah, Ivar was there before you too. Yep, I think he was doing 2-star pitchers all the way back then. He's still doing that.
That's all he does. It's 2-star pitches and IDP.
I love that guy.
He's perfect. I love Ivar. Ivar's the greatest, man. Absolutely. Well, Michael Stein wants to know, what do you think about Kyle Williams?
Oh, what a jerk. Kyle Williams muffed 2 punts in an NFC Championship game against the Giants, the second of which cost us a field goal attempt that led to a breakup of mine and the Giants going to the Super Bowl. I'll tell you the story real quick. I was dating a girl at the time. I was trying to get out of it because I was kind of interested in my now wife, but I couldn't just do it. She was very hard to break up with. So she came up here. We went down.
Why was she so hard to break up with? Oh, see, I'm going to dive into this story right now.
I don't know. She just kept talking me back into it. I mean, she was out of my league to begin with, so it wasn't it wasn't hard to talk me back into.
Okay. So better looking than you.
Well, aren't they all?
Sex is a weapon.
Not so much. I don't know. I guess so. Isn't it always? Right. I mean, we're not that difficult.
I try to use sex as a weapon for my wife, and she just laughs. So, I mean...
Because they could go forever. I have a friend who just had a baby, and his wife wants to have another one, and he's like, I'm not ready. And I'm like, she's just going to take it when she wants it, right? And he's like, yes. Like, so, yeah. We're spineless, let's be honest. So we were in Buffalo Wild Wings. Everyone in the place obviously is rooting for the Giants since I live in New York. It was me and these 2 older ladies. One was in a hand-knit, 49ers sweater. It looked like she did it herself. So we were the only 3 people in the place rooting for the 49ers. So as Williams muffed that second punt, which set up a 20-yard field goal or whatever it was, I'm like, let's go. We got to go. And she's like, why? I don't understand. I'm like, because I don't want to sit here and watch these 100 a-holes celebrate my team getting knocked out of the playoffs, because that was a really hard-fought game, too. We beat Eli Manning within an inch of his life, and he kept just getting up. So when we got back to my apartment, I blew up and was throwing things, and that was finally the straw that broke the back. So I can thank Kyle Williams for that, at least. I faked a good fight because I was mad about the 49ers losing.
That's how you did it. See, my story was a whole lot more elaborate with my old college girlfriend and trying to figure out the best way to break up with her. So I just went out and had an affair and made sure that I got caught.
That will do it every time. That will do it every time.
It really will. It really will. Not nice. It was very, I was a bit of a douchebag back then.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do?
Now, I feel like I'm getting set up here by Cheyenne, who the question that she has for you is, can you share a good Urban Dictionary word about poop?
I was doing a podcast with my buddy Steve Rappin over at Fighting Chance Fantasy before I came back and joined the Fantasy Alarm. And we did one, I think it was week 8 or 9, where we broke down a game and then each gave an Urban Dictionary definition, and then broke down a game and did some Urban Dictionary. It was hilarious because we were both half in the bag on top of it. I don't remember what any of them are off the top of my head, but any good poop Urban Dictionary is always good for me. It's a common theme for us to talk about at the dinner table at my house. Also, is poop, driving my kids crazy. But yeah, me and my wife, we like to bring poop up in every dinner conversation.
Listen, I'm not against that either. I'm a big fan of poop jokes. I really am. So
Farts are funny. Poop's funny. Yeah.
Were you guys just coming up with different things? Were you coming up with synonyms for poop, or were you talking about the Alamo and the Houdini and the false alarm?
No, yes, we were. But the worst part was he kept coming up with really lame ones that weren't really all that bad, and I'm coming up with, the time that your wife has her period on her sock and you beat her in the face with it, whatever. It was the most vile stuff you could think of, and he was like, this one's where you poop diarrhea, and I'm like, what did you come up with? This whole site.
No. What are you coming up with here? No. Forget him. What are you coming up with?
I have a bunch of them, I'm sure, saved in my phone because I screenshotted them all so I can remember them. But this is a family show, as you've said before, so I think I've already said too much about everything.
I think the family portion of this show is long over now. Long over.
That's what I'm here for.
Unbelievable. I'm scrolling through right now, and these are great. Like the
Yeah,
Peekaboo, the Winnie the Poop. Do you know what Winnie the Poop is?
I don't know what that is now.
Well, let me see which ones you know then, and which ones you don't
Oh, I
know.
don't know. I don't have any of them memorized.
Oh, you know? You couldn't tell me what the ice cream machine is?
I have a feeling it might have something to do with the back door, but I'm gonna not try to guess.
What about the Houdini?
Hmm. That sounds like you're hiding something. I don't know. It sounds like a lot of fun and probably something I'd like to give a shot at. But
Oh, the Houdini. I actually, this. I think this has happened to all of us here. You know it came out, but you never heard it hit the water, so you peek around and check the toilet, and it's gone.
yes, that's happened to everybody. I'm glad I could class up the show.
Right? Seriously, classing things up here. All right, so let's take it through here again now. The life of Ryan Hallam. You go through your time. You're doing the show with Jeff Manza. How long were you on Sirius for with Jeff?
8 months.
8 months.
8 months, and then the divorce really hit. Here's another funny story. So I did it out of my basement because I don't really live. I live in nowhere, so it's not like I had a studio to go to. So when my ex-wife and I were actually divorcing, I was doing the show there, and clearly I was moving out of the house. And she's like, "Well, let's get the divorce agreement finalized, the money and everything. You can keep doing the show, the house. Don't worry about it." So of course, my kids were 5 and 3 at the time, so they knew I was downstairs. They wanted to be down there, so it became a problem pretty quickly that I was doing the show, especially 5 to 8, again, bedtime. So they always wanted to come down and talk to me. So it was a complete cluster. So we used to do this segment, I don't know if he still does it or not, where we would act out movies. And then people would call in to guess what it was. And whoever, I don't know what we gave away at the time, I can't remember. But we would act out a movie every show. So one night when it was getting pretty close to the point where I was not really not allowed in the house, but not really welcome to do the show in the house. There was no restraining order or anything like that. That sounds terrible. She was going to take the kids to like ice cream or something. So we were doing Jerry Maguire. So of course my part was Jerry Maguire was going to be show me the money. And I was like, oh, thank God they're not going to be home. So during the commercial break, before we were going to do that segment, I hear the door upstairs. They came home. So I'm like, this is going to be good. But I have to do it, Howard. I can't. It's the audience. I had to do what I had to do. So I knew they were up there, but he was like, and I still, show me the money! Like, screamed at the top of my lungs. That was the last show I did in the house. That was the end. I was no longer welcome back. I had to drive to Woodstock. There's a radio station there where I had to either go now to the city, to Sirius Studios, or I had to go to Woodstock to do. That was my last show in the house. So thanks to Tom Cruise for that one.
So your hiatus now from Fantasy Alarm, and I mean, I know that you were still doing some Fighting Chance. You've been doing some Fighting Chance stuff before you even came back to Alarm. So the hiatus away from fantasy sports, is it pretty much like what we're going through right now with the COVID-19 lockdown, that there's no sports? I mean, did you have that longing for it? Did you miss it?
Always. I came back several times, actually. You might not have known it because it was very short-lived. I came back once, and I think I got like a closer article to do, and I was like, this sucks. This isn't anything. This isn't satisfying me at all. So I left again, and I came back, and it was like football season, and I think I got like a injury article. And again, it's like it just wasn't doing it for me. So I left again, and then I called our good friends at the top of Fantasy Alarm, like, I think I can have Fighting Chance back, because they did buy us technically. It was a transaction. It wasn't for a sexy amount of money or anything, but it was a legit transaction. So I was like, any chance because I never really lost touch. I was like, any chance I can have it back? I just want to do it by myself. I just want to do it for fun. And it was like it was in the corner of the closet, way in the back, under a bunch of clothes. Like, I don't care. It's not doing anything for me. Go ahead. So yeah, I started my own blog again. Then Steve and I I was like, you want to do this? And he never really was involved. So of course, he was excited about it. So yeah, then I was doing what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. If I didn't write an article, it didn't matter because it was my thing anyway. And we're doing a lot of fun. I was saying, swearing and doing whatever. It didn't matter because, I figured 14 people reading it anyway. So yeah, I got back into it, doing what I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. And, I never thought in a million years that I would get back to near where I was or make any money off it or be invited to labor, be invited to Tout Wars. It's just so many great things have happened since I've come back. I never got fantasy sports out of my system. I never could. I tried. I don't think there was ever more than like a six month period where I didn't do anything. And it was nice. I kept relationships. You and I didn't talk a lot, but I never lost touch with you. Right. A lot of other great people in the industry because the fantasy sports industry is full of awesome people. And I was able to maintain a lot of relationships. So even when I was a one man show, doing a mock draft, I had you, I had, Steve Gardner, I had Bob Harris, all these people, they stuck with me. And that is like one of the things that I'll always remember also is just how many cool people just stayed with me, stuck with me, included me in things, did things with me, who all had way busier schedules than me. So that was something that really means a lot to me.
The industry is really filled with a ton of great people. I'm hearing that echo again, Matt Sells, our illustrious producer, and now all of a sudden it's gone. Thank you. And I do believe that. We've talked about it when Laura Michaels passed away. It was devastating for a lot of people, and I do think that a lot of people from my era of coming up in the fantasy sports industry, because he was still doing. He was over at Masters Ball, and they had creative sports, and Laura was like an industry giant, still is, just on name alone. And so it is a very welcoming industry, and I think that it was it was nice. Now let's give the Fighting Chance people a little bit of a shout out here because you actually assembled a pretty cool team of people while you were over there. Now they're still writing over there. Because I kind of see it, I see it very similarly with Justin Mason's Friends with Fantasy Benefits. Mm-hmm. You try to get somebody some money for it, whether it's a revenue share or something like that. But this is, this is not the place to make millions of dollars doing fantasy. This is where you cut your teeth and, call it the minor leagues or whatever. You don't really want to call it the minor leagues because I've been fishing off of Mason's Friends with Fantasy Benefits a ton, and there are a bunch of people on staff at Fantasy Alarm who started with Justin, and I view the crew over at Fighting Chance very similarly. Although I think Gary won the Scott Fish Bowl this year, right?
Scott Fish Bowl, yeah.
I also think he was in on the spoiling of some Survivor stuff. So I hate him to death.
That's actually how I met Gary, was through my Survivor game. He was like a person who just chatted with me a lot, and then we got talking, and then I was like, hey, you want to, and he was passionate about sports. He likes the 49ers also. So I was like, hey, you want to take a shot? And he did, yeah. And he's pretty good. He won the Scott Fish Bowl. So he's drinking beers out of the bowl, and he's got this championship belt, and he's got some name recognition now. So it's really good for him. He's a great guy. Steve Rappin, of course, was my right-hand man. He's still there. He's a great guy as well. Brian Drake. Funny how I got Brian. We were doing mock drafts, and I had somebody drop out at the last minute. So I just put on Twitter and say, I just want to grab anybody at that point. It was like 5 minutes before I started. So he's like, I'll join. And I was like, okay. So after the mock, I was like, oh, what site are you from? And he's like, oh, I'm not from any. I was like, oh. He's like, you want to give it a shot? And so he came on that way, like just answered a mock draft, and I thought he was with somebody. Like his old Twitter handle was like Prospect Jesus or something. So like I thought that was the website, and now he's great. He does this podcast with Dwayne McFarland. I'm not sure if you know him. He's actually got a good gig with, is it Expand the Run? What's what's Evan Silva's site?
Oh, embarrassed to say, I have no idea.
I'm sorry. Okay, so he's doing over there. So they do the podcast. It's called the Fantasy Football Hustle. It's got a nice following there as well. And One of my best friends there, Casey Kasem. She's a Twitter legend. She also does some good writing. She does some streaming football articles. So yeah, they're all great people. I love to see that they're all still going. Kevin Tompkins, don't let me forget Kevin Tompkins, even though he's a Packers fan. He does a lot of great stuff too. And of course, Polka Pat Wisniewski. He was with Masters Ball at one point with Lauren Todd too. So I think that's everybody.
But yeah, Pat was a big proponent of the mock draft army years ago. He had been doing some stuff there, and Casey, Gary, and Kevin actually all three took pies in the FFI bet at some point.
It's funny. Gary's like 6'4" and his wife is like 5'2", so I think she had to like get a running start to get up to his face to do it. But she was one of the.
She did, but I mean, I feel like it was a running start with a two-handed slam too, if I remember.
I think it was, yes, and she was one of the ones who really, really enjoyed it too. She does this. She does this while we're plugging. She does this craft website for people with kids. They're always looking for something to do with their kids. I think it's called the Create Kit. Is what it's called. And it's like a monthly thing, that's like the new thing. You send people thing monthly, and it's like a monthly thing you send with a different craft to do with your kids. So she's like a one person show too. So I think that's pretty cool, getting off the ground and doing something creative.
Do we get to pick what the craft is? Like if I was like, you should teach them how to make a noose.
I believe she picks it, thankfully.
Oh, really? All right, never mind.
You are now definitely off staff of the Create Kit. Sure.
I am not a kid-friendly person. Yeah. I mean, I'm okay. I can tolerate him for a little while. And it's got to be like a cool person's kids in order for that to happen. Otherwise, then it drives me nuts. So, yes, Relic and River and Ryder, if you end up watching the replay, we'll have fun hanging out. I'll tolerate you guys because your mom and dad are great people, and I love them to death. But then there are other people with their kids, like, I don't want to, I can't say too much.
I hear you, because that's like the worst part about having kids is like when they get involved in things and you have to go to them at the school, like, and your kid's in like 5 minutes of something, you have to sit there for 2 hours. Like, it's the worst. Like,
you've got girls, right?
Yeah, they're
the dance recitals.
No dance recitals. No, they are two very uncoordinated souls. Thankfully, my older one's into like acting and Broadway and stuff, so she's in like the school play. And my little one's in like chorus and band. So you have to go to like these chorus concerts. But my older one, it's the middle school and the high school, so it's like 3 hours, and she's like in the first 10 minutes. Like, I'm happy to go see you, but you have to go see them at the end and tell them they did great. So I can't just leave. But like, I'm happy to go see you. I don't care about other people's kids. I'm just here to see you. Maybe some of your friends, but I don't really care about her friends either. But I'm not gonna tell her that. But
yeah, no. Listen, my old neighbor across the street, we used to go to her kids' ballet recital and all the stuff like that. So yeah, no, I'll pass on that. I'll definitely pass on that. Sorry, don't mean to be anti-children, but. I don't need anybody to take care of me in my decrepit old age. I'm gonna off myself before it gets to that point.
Oh, well, that's comforting.
I know. All right, so you've made your way back here to Fantasy Alarm. What's coming up in the future for you here now? Like, how are you feeling about? I mean, obviously this lockdown is driving everybody nuts, and we're all trying to come up with different creative ways to keep ourselves entertained. Hence. This live stream here. What are you doing with yourself right now?
I mean, you guys are keeping me still fairly busy, trying to do some things. I got that DFS Survivor article and some things here and there. So there's not a lot to do, Howard. I'm not too far away from the epicenter of this thing down in New York City. So I'm trying to stay inside as much as I can, not going out unless we have to. I'm not one of these people who don't think it's a big deal and just, goes out and hugs everybody and licks the banister and all that. So my dogs, I got 2 dogs. Obviously, my wife, we watch a lot of TV, watching Schitt's Creek right now. So that's
cool. Just started that?
It just started, and we're already into like season 3. We're just ripping through it. It's so funny. But yeah, a lot of TV, a lot of trying to just follow stuff. Thankfully, I had the NFL free agent tracker. That really kept me busy for a little while, for a few days, doing that on the site because that was a lot of fun. But yeah, man, I'm hoping this is before too long. I don't even care if there's people in the crowd. Let's just get games going again.
Games going again would be definitely good. I keep hearing so many different conflicting. They want to do it in June. Greg Jewett's writing an article right now because a lot of people are saying June. And what Jim Bowden and I were talking about, earlier was the way the schedule is being dealt with right now. Because Greg's doing an article, and I mean, it's kind of interesting that if they were to just play the schedule from June 1st on and go from there, Toronto misses like 13 games with the Baltimore Orioles because the inbound schedule was so heavily front loaded for them at that point. And really, what does that do to Toronto? And betting wins totals, not that you can at all, but stuff like that. So yeah, I would very much like for that to start up as well. In the meantime, I am definitely trying to keep myself busy. Have you seen Tiger King yet?
I haven't. I've seen everybody talking about it. I've been meaning to. The problem, my wife works at a credit union, and she's like a week on and week off right now. So she's home this week working. So I'm figuring next week when she goes back to work, I'll have some time during the day, throw that on. Because I don't think it's she's a real big animal person from what I've read. I don't know.
I'm a huge animal person. My wife is a huge animal person. It's not a cruelty to animals. The big cat industry is, it's shady as all heck is. if you ever end up in prison, just find out somebody who knows about the big cat industry, because that's apparently where you're mentored. Is going from prison to that. But there's because there's like it's murder mystery, and there's all sorts of just crazy weird. Listen, there's no cruelty to animals to the point where you're like, oh my God, this is like a horror show. Because you know me, and and you don't know my wife, but I mean, she would never tolerate that at all. It's 8 episodes. I think it's 7 or 8 episodes, and that's it. It's just boom.
All right,
but it is crazy, dude.
But Ozark comes back tomorrow, so I'm just holding out for Ozark.
All right, yeah, Ozark. I think I got to go back and watch last season of Ozark. I think I kind of crapped out on that.
Oh, so good. It's one of my favorites.
It was definitely good. Oh, I think I just popped a contact lens out. Wow. How's that for live stream? That's live television right there. In any event, like Ozark was great, but it was going through a period where, I was waking up. Like, I don't remember when exactly it started. I kind of feel like it started.
I feel like 17 is when it started.
I was going to say, I feel like it started at the time when Jeff and Ray left Fantasy Alarm.
Oh, yeah, that was a rough time.
and my schedule went from work to, and I was just doing no sleeping at all, and it was crazy. So when my wife would put Ozark on, 8:30, 9 o'clock at night on the couch, and I'm just like,
all right, I'll give you a pass on that then. Yes, I can figure that would have been difficult.
I'll dive back into it. Big Jason Bateman fan?
Now I am. I wasn't so much, 10, 15 years ago, but he's made a nice comeback. It all started with dodgeball, man. He was that little announcer spot in dodgeball, and ever since then he kind of got back into mainstream.
No doubt. All right, well, we're running short on time here. Talk to me, Ryan. You want to give some shout outs to anybody? Is there anything that we don't know about Ryan Hallam that we need to know, especially as we move forward with you and heading into the upcoming football season, all that other fun stuff?
Don't know if there's anything else you need to know about me. Go to my Twitter and go to my comedy movie tournament. Get some votes going on that. That's some fun to distract you.
Oh, the brackets. You're all about the brackets.
Anything. I like to do anything that's fun. Like I do the Fantasy Survivor, do this comedy movie tournament. When Memorial Day comes, if movie theaters are open, I do a game where we draft summer blockbusters to see who has the best opening weekend. Like try to do something that's not like sports, or stats all the time. So I do something a little bit different to a little distraction, a little bit something fun. So that's what I'm doing now. As everybody at Fantasy Alarm has been fantastic. You, Matt, John, brought me back and have just been great. I really appreciate everything. And then all the guys, Dan, Justin, Andy, I'm going to forget lots of people. Jen, obviously, Adam, crap.
It's the whole crew. The whole crew. It's a big group, actually. It really is. So
Mike Alexander, everybody's cool. Everybody's so cool. Everybody's just welcome me back. So many people just reach out to me like first that I had never even met or talked to before to say welcome in and everything. So it is, when you say family, it means family, man. It's a great group, and I can't be having more fun with it.
Well, then from brother to brother, I need you to do something for me then.
Okay, go for it.
Your next set of brackets. I talked about it on the Getting Buzzed episode there. I need a field of 64 people who need a punch in the face. Right? I mean,
who are the 1 seeds there?
Well, right now, so far for me at this point right now, it's that kid who was drunk and interviewed on CBS talking about, well, if I get the coronavirus, I get the coronavirus. I don't care. I'm partying. It's spring break.
He's definitely a number 1 seed. Absolutely.
I will happily help you seed the people. Let's put it together. All right. 64 people who need a punch in the face until the final. And I don't want to give like the spoiler alert and say Joe Buck will probably be in there, but nevertheless,
I think the only rule I have to make is it has to be like no politics, because that will just.
Oh yeah. No, it can't have to do with politics. No.
Yeah, that'll just set off a firestorm that we're not interested in. But yeah, all right, I like that. I like that idea. I'll start working on it. Howard Bender, 8th seed, 9th seed. What do you think? I guess I'll have to.
Man, I'd be a 5 seed, but then I would lose to the 12 seed like that. That's come on.
That always happens.
Who would want to punch this in the? Come on.
There was an awful lot of people who were pretty happy to put a pie in it. I'll tell you that.
Oh well, yeah, that's for true. That's very.
Was that your neighbors there?
That was my neighbor / landlord. Wayne.
Nice. Yeah, the first side pie video was my favorite because you didn't necessarily know it was coming. I think your wife hit you with the first one, and he just like tapped you on the shoulder and was like, bam, there was the second.
They beat the snot out of me on that one. I almost broke my nose, no doubt. All right, well, that's going to do it for us here. Meet the family, Ryan Hallam, baseball, football, Survivor.
Howard Rose. I think he was pretty much done with me.
Look at how I froze, too. There we go. See, am I unfrozen now?
You are unfrozen.
All right, see? So now I can say goodnight to everybody. So thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate it. Much love to you for tuning in. And join us tomorrow as we bring in James Babyface Grande for our Meet the Family then. So we'll see you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. For Ryan Hallam, big thanks to Matt Sells, our producer. I'm Howard Bender, and we'll check you next time.